Hello and welcome back to the Voices of the Vix YouTube channel. Today we are back with another lowdown and I'm joined with Gio from the Hammers chat. How are you, Gio?
I'm good, thank you. We won in the Carabao Cup last night, like yourselves, so we're into the next round, but we also got a difficult fixture, like yourselves. We got Liverpool away, so we know exactly how you feel when the draw comes out. You know, but maybe you should like the fact that you've got Man City, I'm not sure, but certainly when we got Liverpool, there was a bit of a deflated attitude about us.
No, we were fuming yesterday. I mean, we waited all that time for the draw and then just to be literally you were the first ball, we were the second ball.
Yeah.
But the whole system was messed up with drawing the clubs and we were like, "Oh yeah, can't wait for a cup run." And now I
Victims
think
of the Carabao Cup being rigged.
yeah, it's horrible. But today we are here to speak about our new signing, Ogbonna. So he was obviously at West Ham for a really long time, and hopefully you can give us some insight into who he was. So we'll start with the first question, and it is sort of what kind of role did he play at West Ham? He was obviously there for a really long time, but what role was he in the squad?
When he first arrived, he was sort of straight into the starting 11, left-footed centre back. Obviously, towards the end of his time at West Ham, he was not used as much. He had a couple of big injuries during his time with us as well. However, when a player stays so long at a club and they're not a local player, they're not from around the corner and through the academy, there's something in that. And I think Ogbonna is the perfect example. You're getting the most professional footballer you could come across. He was with us for 9 years, caused absolutely no problems whatsoever. A very likable character around the training ground, gave it 100% in every single game. And he's leaving as a bit of a cult hero, actually, because obviously he's part of the squad that won the European trophy.
Hmm.
One of the best centre backs I've ever seen at West Ham live. While I've been, obviously, we've had some really good ones in the past and some prior to me being born. But in terms of while I've been around watching West Ham in the last 20, 30 years, I think he's one of the better centre backs we've seen in the claret and blue. Actually, he's obviously not as good as he used to be. He's 36
Yeah.
years old, but off the pitch, that's type of thing isn't driven by age. Yes, you might lose a bit of your pace. Yes, you might pick up more injuries. But in terms of your character, your attitude, that remains. That's unaffected. And I think we've seen that at West Ham. And if he didn't have that, we wouldn't have kept him on for a further season because he had a really bad injury and he was out for the whole season. And his contract was up. And it was just this assumption that we were going to release him. But we didn't. We gave him a new contract. And it took him a while to get back to it. But he did, and not many players survive from injuries like that, but he did, and in his mid-30s as well, which is an incredible testament to the character of the player.
Yeah, no, and was he ever like was he ever captain of the squad? Like was he
Wore the
seen as that
armband,
kind of
yeah,
yeah.
wore the armband a few times. Wasn't the club captain because obviously we had Martin Noble pretty much the
Yeah.
whole when Ogbonna was there, so he was obviously captain, and then Declan Rice took over. But
Mm,
there were occasions where if one of those would leave the field, Ogbonna would get. I'm pretty sure there's been
yeah.
occasions where he's wore the captain's armband. More so maybe in like the European group stage games where we'd
Mm,
rest Rice on some of them, he would take the captain's armband. But we were perhaps unlucky for Ogbonna, but fortunate for us, we had the likes of Creswell and Fabianski as well. So we've always had some quite senior leaders in the team.
yeah.
But he was definitely loud when he plays at the back. He's definitely he can be the organizer of the back four as well. So I wouldn't have too many concerns. If you're looking for somebody to take charge of your defense, I think you've got one.
Mm. Okay, that's really good to know. Um, do you think he will? Because obviously he is 36, but and he's only signed on a year contract. But do you think he will be coming to Watford to play in the first team, or do you think he's happy to sort of sit on the bench, play when needed, or do you think he's still got that hunger to play? At high intensity championship level.
Both. I think he will have that desire to continue playing first team football. But he also, if he was to find himself on the bench, he's not going to cause problems. I don't think. I don't think
Mm,
you're going to get any tantrums from him, and he's going to be a bit of a nuisance. I think he will accept the role within the squad he's given. And like I said, even if he's not playing, he can still contribute to the squad off the pitch on the training ground and stuff like that, and put his arm around your younger players or something like that. So I think it's just a really shrewd signing from Watford, because last season we called upon him a few times, and I was a little bit worried when we did, because I thought, oh no, because there's 1 or 2 games we played where he's not quick. He was never the quickest centre back, but he's lost that bit of pace he did have.
Yeah.
And in the Premier League, I feel like sometimes he got exposed, but there was other games in the Premier League where the requirement for pace was removed. So it was just a case of reading the game, being in the right place, right time, winning your physical battles. And he was doing all that. So there was, even at the end of last season, there were some games he played for us and he played well. It wasn't like he just got through the game. He was putting in some good shifts for us, actually, which surprised me. But I was pleased, because you just get players you root for, don't you? Do you know, because they're so likable. You think, oh, please, can you just not have a bad game? Just because I don't want to criticize you. I don't want to feel like watch you have a bad game. And Ogbonna's definitely one of them. I thought he might retire personally, because there's been talk about like what he's going to do after he's finished playing football, and so with him being 36, I thought maybe he would move into backroom coaching somewhere. So the fact he's joined you, I was a bit surprised by. However, I'm probably rooting for him, actually. I think there's a feel-good factor around West Ham fans seeing Ogbonna go to Watford, and we'll all be wanting him to do well for you, actually. So
yeah, that's nice. You mentioned then that he's not the quickest. What would you also say some of his weaknesses are?
Just things that come with age. So his pace is definitely the biggest one now. I think there's been some times where, more so in European football, in the Premier League under Moyes, we were quite happy to play a low block, so we tend to be quite deep anyway. But when we played European football, especially in the earlier stages, the emphasis was perhaps on us to go and attack those teams. So we were playing a little bit further up the pitch. And there was a few times where he got done for just a striker just going past him with maybe 30 yards between the half, maybe just closer to halfway line, 18-yarder. So there's plenty of room behind Ogbonna. And there's a couple of occasions where strikers took advantage of that, and he found himself making a couple of mistakes last season, which wasn't really like him. There was another game where, can't recall who we played, there was a cross came in and he tried to cleave it. He ended up slicing it into the back of our net. Ogbonna a couple of years ago would have cleared that easily. And it was almost just like a lack of agility to some extent, that his leg was just a little bit slower than he usually would have been. So there was signs of age in his game. But I do feel like towards the end of the season, whether it was West Ham and Moyes or whether it was Ogbonna himself, I feel like his game almost adapted a little bit, and because we didn't have those concerns anymore, he was fine. He's putting in some good performances. Weaknesses are definitely just what comes with age, but you're getting a really intelligent Italian centre back here. You know, Italy centre backs tend to be quite good, don't they? And I think Ogbonna definitely fits that mold. But and
if you're saying, what would you say his like best, like his strength is? Like, you've said that he's quite intelligent, but is there anything that he's like specifically known for, or what he did well at West Ham?
Not necessarily. I think you're getting like a good all-rounder. He's reasonably well at playing the ball out from the back as well. He's very comfortable, calm, which I think sometimes can be a bit underrated in players. Very composed, reads the game really well, strong in the air as well. So if you're good at your set pieces up the other end of the pitch, then you might expect to see Ogbonna getting on the end of popped up with a couple of goals for us as well. So you're getting a really strong footballer. Like I said, honestly, my only concern with Ogbonna is purely his age and then his injury record. But I do think his age is a contributing factor into that. But in terms of him reading the game and whatever, he'll be fine. I think if you come up against not that quick strikers in the Championship, so if he was to play Kiefer Moore, for example, he'd be fine. Ogbonna would be fine. I know he's a big lump, Kiefer Moore, and he can handle himself in the air. Ogbonna can handle himself. And Ogbonna, I would put money on it, Ogbonna reads the game better than Kiefer Moore. So Moore might be bigger and stronger, But I think Ogbonna would just have the better timing and the better reading of the game and win the majority of the duels off the back of that. It's just when he comes up against the fast strikers, I think that's when you might have an issue. If you play a high line, I'm not going to lie, having watched loads of Watford, I couldn't tell you what your defensive structure is like. Can play in a back four or a back three as well. Often we played 3 centre-backs with wing-backs. He was perfectly fine in there as well. So in terms of being flexible with your formation, wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, that's great because our defense, we've had so many managers and so many formations that just change all the time. But right now we are sort of doing a back three, and that seems to be really working for us at the moment. And like you said, he's obviously very flexible, can play in whatever formation really. So that's good to know. So obviously concerns about his age, but do you think, he's still got it in him to be in the Championship, be a bit of a shithouse? Like, do you think that's something we might see from him?
Yeah, I think he's definitely, like I said, he's a clever player. I didn't ever see him lose his rag very often at all. In 9 years at West Ham, I can't really recall him having an outburst, whether it be verbal or physical or anything like that. He was always came across as very, very calm. But in terms of like winding players up, the traditional shithousing, if you like, I wouldn't associate that with Ogbonna. I think he's more of the type of player and character that will see through someone else trying to do it to him. If somebody was trying to rub him up, I don't think he'd get involved. I think he would just look at them and think, I don't need to do that. I'm just better than you. I think he'll tend to stay away from that type of thing. But I guess that's what makes him sort of a good unspoken leader to some extent, that he has that calm influence on those around him. I think sometimes you see your captain kicking off, it can sometimes maybe agitate the rest of your team, which can be good, but also I think sometimes it can maybe see you lose control a little bit. But I think he'll be all right. I think he says he's Tom Cleverley, your manager now. Is that?
Yeah.
Is Ogbonna older than him?
Yeah.
I thought it might be. I was just thinking Cleverley's still quite young, and I know he's mid-30s now, but he's.
I think Cleverley's 36, but his birthday is before Cleverley's, so
Yeah,
he is
that's a bit
older.
unusual, isn't it? I mean, at
I
Brighton,
know.
it's happening now, but that's a bit unusual. The player being older than the manager. So so there you go. You've got a bit of a funny thing there where Ogbonna's older than the gaffer, but
I know. We've got a reasonably young squad, an inexperienced squad, and having someone like Sissoko has been so good as a captain and helping the young players. And when Watford announced we were signing Ogbonna, one of the things he said was he's been speaking with Sissoko and he wants to take on sort of that same role in the sense of like helping, the younger players with his experience. And he's obviously a very experienced player. And, it's always good to have someone who's played in the Premier League a lot to come and help, because you see it, and we've seen it with Sissoko already, and we're 4 or 5 games in, he is helping them so much. So we're hoping Ogbonna can sort of have that same role, but also, play a lot on the pitch, because, I think he will still have it in him, and we hope that he will. What would you say your best memory of him is? Has he done anything that he's known for?
I'm trying to think what goal he scored. He scored a goal in an FA Cup game, I think. Might have been Everton. I'm sure he scored an important goal in a cup game. I recall it. It was a header. It might be in Liverpool, actually. It was one of the Scouse teams, I think. Hopefully he does that again in the rigged Carabao Cup in the third round. But, well, for you, for against Man City. But the best things about Ogbonna, the ones that I spoke about, is just that 9 years, no problems.
Yeah.
That's very, very rare. That's very rare. Sometimes you'll maybe get 3 good years out of a player, but the 4th year, either a performance dips or they want out the club for whatever reason. We've all had it where your hero turns around and goes, I'm too good for this club. I want to go now.
Yeah.
So, we'll still get today at West Ham with our current crop of players. There'll be players that cause issues. Whereas Ogbonna, literally, I'm not even just saying this, there was literally not one incident at all in 9 years has he caused any sort of problems at the football club. He was just there. You knew you could rely on him. Yes, he's had a lot of injuries and bad injuries as well. But like I said, to come back from those and to continue at the highest level, I think it's very underappreciated in footballers, actually, how tough it can be. You know, we've been fortunate to speak to some former West Ham players over the years, and one of them was Dean Ashton, where he got, his ankle done in on England international duty by Sean White-Phillips, and he tried to come back. And when we spoke to him, he just said it was a very lonely time, a very lonely place, being injured. All your mates are out on the training pitch, and you're sat in a room by yourself. And not only that, you come in at different times. Training might be 10 to 12, then injured players come in at 1 p.m. because naturally the physios are with the first team, and now they're with the injured players. So it's a very difficult environment, I think, when you're injured for such a long period of time, like Ogbonna was. So for him to come back and go on and perform at the highest level, I think is incredible. This is a guy with caps for Italy, played for Juventus before coming to West Ham, and then when he was with us, he's loads of Premier League appearances, played in Europa League, Europa Conference League, and I'm just glad that we won our first trophy in 43 years. And I'm just glad we've got some really likable personalities like Ogbonna within that squad as well. There's some players in that squad that you'll forget about quite easily. Ogbonna ain't one of them. You'll remember that he was part of that squad that won that trophy.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I think there was mixed reactions when we signed him, in the sense of like, he's kind of old, like, has he still got it in him? But I guess we'll just have to see. And like, from what you've said, like, he sounds like he probably does. And I don't think he would come here if he didn't think that he had it in him. Like, and I don't think we would have signed him just to sign him. Like, he obviously wants to play. And I think, we hope that he can be the Ogbonna that was at West Ham. I mean, obviously he is a bit old, but he's still, hopefully he's got it in him. But yeah, that was all my questions. Thank you so much for giving that insight into him.
No worries. I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing how he gets on. When players go out on loan, we try to keep an eye on how our loan players are doing when they leave West Ham for a season before they come back. But I think there's going to be an element of that with Ogbonna, actually. I think people are going to be looking to see how Ogbonna gets on at Watford, and genuinely wishing him all the best, because I wouldn't be surprised. I'm still hoping, actually, one day we'll see him back at West Ham in a coaching capacity. I'm hoping he goes, because I feel like I'm correct saying this, that he began his coaching badges and he's planning for life after playing football, and it's to remain in football. He's spoken about it before, about potentially doing coaching and whatever. And I'd like to see him back at West Ham doing that. So I'm kind of glad he's gone to Watford, so he remains in England. He remains in or around London, depending on where you class that as. But he's staying in around the area as well, so that I had a little bit of a, I say why, I wasn't that concerned that he'd go back to Italy. He would just go over to Italy and stay in Italy, and that was it. But the fact that he's remained in England gives me hope that we still might see him back at West Ham in a coaching capacity. So you might get him, if he enjoys his time at Watford and he gets on well with Cleverly, and he decides that he's going to hang his boots up at the end of the season, you might find that you've just gone and got yourself a new coach as well at the same time, because he definitely has plans to stay in the game, I think. In terms of, like I said, for the fifth time, apologies, but his character is just fantastic. So if he can translate that to the coaching role, and they don't always work, players turning into manager and coach don't always work. But I do think sometimes it's those with an ego that don't work, personally. I think it's sometimes those players that maybe were a little bit arrogant struggle with the transition, whereas perhaps the more humble footballer has a higher success rate. And Ogbonna's certainly that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to him. I genuinely wish him all the best, and I hope he's a huge success for you. You're playing three at the back. You can play in the middle of a back three or to the left of a back three with him being left-footed. Very comfortable on the ball as well. So expect him to be quite happy to play it out from the back rather than just going long all the time. You've got a really good footballer. It's just a case of, does he still have that athletic side to his game? Because while he was doing all right with us at the end of last season, it's some gap to not have any pre-season. He didn't have any pre-season football either. I think that would be my concern, because you might find it's going to take him a couple of months to get up and running, but you've got the international break coming up, so hopefully that gives him a bit of a pre-season to test himself a little bit. But yeah, best of luck to him, and I hope he's a huge success.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're missing that role and we need him to come in now. We have got people playing there that like they deserve to play, and Ogbonna is sort of someone who we would have probably on rotation, or when he is fit. And if that takes a couple couple of weeks, couple of months, you don't know. But I'm sure he's with Cleverley, because obviously Cleverley was probably the same in the sense like he had a really bad injury and then just decided to retire and then started his coaching. So I'm sure that Ogbonna's they're probably chatting about how he did that. And like you said, some people like Troy Deeney didn't always go well into the coaching area and it just didn't work for him. But honestly, I have to say Cleverley, he has been excellent so far. So good. So I feel like Ogbonna could 100% do that type of thing, go down that route. So they're probably learning from each other.
Yeah, love that. Well, whenever we were winning, say we were 2-1 up with 5 minutes to go, Bonner was always usually the first sub, like to come on and help see
Yeah.
the game out and stuff like that. And I know it sounds a bit like a crap role for a footballer. You come on for 5 minutes when we're winning, but actually, it's quite an important role to some extent that
Yeah.
you're being trusted as the guy that's
Yeah,
going
you're
to help
being
see the
trusted,
game out. And
exactly.
usually, he was the right guy to come on. He'll throw himself in the way of anything, win loads in the air. Yeah, big fan of Ogbonna.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Gio, for this insight. It's been great. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next video. Bye.